Hi guys, it's Carissa. I have a lot of information for you today. So starting with the day before yesterday at my last ultrasound, the nurse found a lead follicle that was a 14 on my left side and the rest were around 10. And today when I went in, I was seen by the doctor for the first time this cycle and actually in a while. I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason behind how often a doctor does your scan, but she just happened to come in the room today, and nothing against any of the nurses who have done my scans before, because most of them are wonderful, but there's just something about the skill set and the confidence of a doctor performing a scan. She was very quick, but yet very precise, and she pulled up really different numbers. And she knew that too. Having reviewed my chart before she came in, she said she was expecting to find a lead follicle greater than 14. And on my left side, I had 2 12s, 2 11s, and a 10. And on my right side, I had 1 10. So she said, you have 6 follicles right now that are all about the same size. Between the 10 and the 12, they're very, very close. In fact, the 2 11s had almost the exact same measurement. And she said, this is not a good number for an IUI. Oh, and that was one of the last things I wanted to hear, but she's right. She said, sending millions of sperm at 6 eggs, potentially 6 eggs, is just, it's reckless. And what they would normally do if everything continued to grow the way that it has been is cancel the cycle. So after that, she said, obviously, I know you would prefer not to do that, so you do have options. Because we have one more IVF left in our contract, we could convert this to an IVF. However, I technically only have about 7 or 8 follicles, and then I have my 6, which are all kind of the leads. So I could potentially be only working with 6 to 8 actual eggs for an IVF. And that's not much better than the numbers I had last time. And obviously, if we were going to do our next IVF, we would want the more aggressive medication doses and the preparation to be a lot more intense like it was for the IVF last time, in hopes to get much better numbers than what I have right now. So she said I have a third option, and it's something I would have to discuss with Mike and decide on, unfortunately, before noon today, because they would have to be able to have the time to compare my blood work with the information that I give them and with our scan numbers and everything to figure out what dose I need to take tonight and tomorrow. So she said that they have something going on called an experimental egg freeze. And basically what would happen is we would continue on the 75 units of Gonal today and tomorrow. And Monday we would check and see where everything stands. There's a chance that a couple of my follicles could pull ahead and get larger, and then the rest could sort of fall behind, and we'd be okay to go forward with IUI. However, she doesn't think that that's likely. She said, I think you should have a plan B, and this egg freeze is a good idea. Basically, they're trying to perfect their technique for egg freezing when egg donations take place. She said, obviously with sperm, because there's millions of them, if you lose half of them, there's still so many. But when women donate eggs, an egg is a single cell, it's much more fragile, and it's less likely to survive the freeze and the thaw. So I could technically get to the point where I have 6 follicles, up to 6 eggs, and do an egg retrieval for them, freeze them, and then next month, or whenever I'm ready to, take 1 or 2 of those eggs if they're still there, and then do a transfer with egg and sperm. So it's not an embryo transfer, but it's kind of like that. Obviously, because this is something that they're doing to improve their numbers and what they do, there's a chance that I'm risking losing all of those eggs. But I'm also risking having to cancel the whole cycle anyway, because I don't want to use my next IVF on these kinds of numbers. You know, if I had 15 follicles that were all this at this level, I might consider it, you know. So excuse me. So the next thing is cost. She said she kept saying extreme discount. Now, I know an FET is $1,500 through this office, and an IUI is $300. My IUI is covered by insurance. So she had kind of a debate between one of the nurses there, who does sometimes sit at the front desk, I've noticed. So one of the nurses who actually takes payments and like checks people in, who I would think would know better, I guess, versus a doctor who I would like to think anyway that she's not sitting at that desk because she's a doctor. But the doctor said, expect between $300 and $1,500. She said, well, go into it expecting $1,500 or less. And I think she was basing that on the FET cost. The nurse they had, you know, kind of it almost was getting like to be heated a little bit, because the nurse was adamant that for people who have IUI coverage but who want to do the experiment, they only have to pay for anesthesia, so that's $400. Then the doctor said, well, maybe it's going to be $700 because of the $300 for the IUI plus the $400 for the anesthesia. But then the nurse was like, yeah, but if IUIs are covered by insurance, they only have to pay for the anesthesia. Why would they have to pay for an IUI if they have it covered? And they were back and forth a little bit. So, of course, I'm thinking that's the only piece of information that's really going to concern Mike, because the rest of it he usually tries to leave up to me. You know, it's my body and it's me going through it. He wants me to be okay with our plans every time. So I had to go to him with this very rocky information on what the actual out-of-pocket costs could be. So we discussed it, and not to try and just hope for the lowest price. It just logically sounds like it would be just the $400 for anesthesia, partially because the one girl said she knows that they were taking payments for it at $400 just for the anesthesia at their office, but that just logically makes the most sense to me. However, I would just mentally prepare myself for up to $1,500 for an FET, even though that's not what we're doing. So I know part of the reason we didn't do IVF this round was because of the cost, because our medications start around $1,600, and just the stress from the holidays. Well, the holidays are over, and paying a little bit more than I expected to versus canceling the cycle, I guess that just seems more appealing to me. That would mean all this time I spent on the birth control. Oh, the birth control. So all the time I spent on, this preparation would be for nothing. So after talking it over, that just sounds like our best option. And I guess that's what we're going to plan to do. Tonight I'll stay on the 75 units of Gonal, and tomorrow, and the 5 units of Lupron. And then Monday at 7:30 I have an appointment. We'll see where everything stands and kind of keep planning from there. Because I can't imagine, I don't know, I would expect now, like by the end of the week next week, I'd be closer to ready, because it is such a slow increase. And then we would still plan to do our IVF after this transfer if it doesn't work. Now, she did say that they have had successful pregnancies from this. She said it is mutually beneficial to people who have done it in the past. I do really like the idea of giving them the opportunity to learn more. If women are donating their eggs, it's so nice to think that something that I'm doing could help make that donation matter more in the future. I don't know. But she said, you know, this is what celebrities do. They do this kind of procedure. And I guess I never really thought of it or heard of it. It's very uncommon, at least in the YouTube community with TTC, where women just freeze their eggs till they're ready to use them. So she said it's really not any different from that. So, I don't know. Does it sound a little bit, Mike was like, are we going to pay $1,500 for something that's an experiment? And, you know, basically she said it's the same as when your mom makes a cake and you make a cake, and even if you use the same pans and the same kitchen and the same ingredients, yours just might not turn out as well because there's one or two little aspects of the procedure that, you know, like say she lets it cool for 3 hours, or, you know, she does a little something different to the cake that she just hasn't put in the recipe or hasn't mentioned for whatever reason. She says it's kind of the same idea. You know, they have the technique is the same as, you know, what is supposed to be ideal, but for whatever reason it's not coming out as well, so they want to try it. So I could lose all of these eggs, you know, giving this a shot, but at least I know that I didn't just quit and say, let's just cancel the cycle. So that's what's going on, if that makes any sense. Oh, the sun's attacking me again. So that's the plan. I will let you know how things progress. I don't know. What would you do? What would you do if you were in my position? It's certainly something I wasn't expecting to hear today. And with as sluggish as my growth has felt all this time, I also didn't think that I was at risk for having to cancel the cycle. But, of course, all my follicles have to be buddies and stick together. So let me know. Let me know what you think or what you would do, or if you know anybody who's been in this position before or done anything like this. I'm curious. And that's it. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I will update you very soon. Bye.